Welcome to Heat Up Your Retreats, the podcast where purpose meets planning and God-sized dreams come to life through transformational travel experiences. I'm your host, Amanda Heater, CEO of Across the Horizon Travel, retreat strategist, and passionate believer in using travel as a tool for impact. Whether you're a coach, pastor, wellness leader, or change maker, ready to lead your first or even your next retreat, you're in the right place. Let's turn your vision into a powerful, profitable, and spirit-led retreat experience. Let's heat things up together. Hey everybody, welcome back to Heat Up Your Retreats, the show where we dig into what it takes to design, host, and grow transformational retreats that leave an impact. I am your host, Amanda Heater, and today I'm excited to introduce a very special guest, Tina B. Bakehouse. Tina is a dynamic communicator, event MC, and keynote speaker who brings energy, connection, and authenticity to every stage that she steps on. While she hasn't actually hosted her own retreat yet, her experience leading audiences in live events, creating meaningful moments, and facilitating transformation gives her the unique insights into the retreat space. I believe our conversation today will uncover what someone with her background can bring to retreat hosting and what powerful crossover ideas exist between speaking, emceeing, and retreat design. Tina, welcome to the show.
Amanda, so excited to be here. It's wonderful to connect with you and to support you on this beautiful journey of how do we do this thing called retreats. And I love that your last name is Heater, because it's like heat it up, baby. That's a great play on words. Because I like going to warm retreats. That's when I go in January and February because I live in the Midwest.
Yes, same girl, same girl. So I kind of want to just dive right in. I want you to share with my audience a little bit about your journey. So, how did you first get into public speaking and emceeing, and what drew you to that path?
In my mom's birth canal, I probably started singing, talking, freestyle, improv, raps, and whatnot. I grew up on a farm and where the front porch was my proscenium stage. So I grew up in the 80s creating fun shows, roping my brother and sister into little plays, backyard plays, and musicals for my parents' wedding anniversary and variety shows, Carol Burnett style, and very much into the Muppets where they have this playfulness to them with purpose. And so I saw the power that storytelling and performing arts could really have. And that landed in my body in such a powerfully profound way. So as a young child in church, in school, and in college, and in community, I did everything I could to really get into stages and spaces to do community theater, Iowa high school speech, competitions, college competitions, judging speech, and then just I saw this powerful ability that everybody does have within them something to share. And so that became the teacher and guide in me. So it was this yummy marriage of getting that education in theater, English, communication studies, psychology, performing arts. I have 9+ secondary ed experiences and degrees and multiple BAs, masters, and certifications. And it's this alchemy of love for guiding people to their inner light, to stand on any space or stage and speak up and stand up in their beautiful, authentic speaker style. And I've done that with heart-centered leaders and advocates for change in a wide range of various walks of life, from financial planning, mental health, agriculture, and beyond. And so I would say it started when I was really little. And then I was an educator for nearly 2 decades, starting at the high school level, and then got my advanced degrees to be a college professor. Worked in nonprofit where I did do some facilitating of events and promoting of the arts and local foods for 8 counties in Iowa. Then worked as a community and marketing outreach person as a chief creative officer for a bank, and then evolved, jumped out of the plane to start Tina B LLC, which is an intuitive communication coaching business.
Wow, girl, you've
Woo!
got an amazing background. You definitely are a master at what you do. So I'm
Thank
so excited
you.
that you're here on this podcast to share your tips and tricks. So I would like to know, how do you prepare and craft the experience for the audience as a keynote speaker or as an MC, whichever one you want to kind of expand on, or both?
I'm feeling for this podcast, let's lean into the MC. I mean, there's profoundly similarities in both, right? I would say at
Yeah.
the core, it's ask yourself, what is the context? Because context creates connection and content. And so I sit with for and find out as much as I possibly can, like a Nancy Drew sleuth, all the things I can find out about, first of all, who is this audience to which I am communicating with and for? It's for them. And I want to know also, where are we going to be? What kind of space is it? Because that matters. Are we going to be outside, inside a gallery? How long have they been doing this event? Is it new? Has it been going on for many, many years and they have a historical expectation? And what type of time do I have? Is it a 2 hour window? What time of day is it? Is it a brunchy thing? That's a very different vibe than an evening affair. All of that matters because it's the energy you put into it, and it's these creative constraints that lend itself into beautifully profound events. And so what I say is, it's first really getting into the depth of connection, into the audience, the space, the expectations, the decorum of the experience, and then align that with and embody that into the self that you are and what your gifts are as that MC. And for me, I know that I'm a playful, very spiritual, loving, kind, creative guide. And so I think that that's beautiful because events need to be safe first and foremost. People want to walk in, feel seen, heard, valued, and same for their event. So if it's a nonprofit, they want to be making money for the thing they care about, and that you want to hold space for that, and that everybody feels safe in that, that there's no poking fun and roasting in a weird way that's awkward. And then the other piece is, they want to have fun. There's a piece to the entertainment value. So I'm infotainment, if you will. Like, I really give nuggets of about the organization because that's persuasive. I tell it through story, I tell it through freestyle improv, playfully. And I get that little twinge of making it a fun competitive game where if it's money making, yeah, they want to be making money. They're a nonprofit. And so, how can I amp up the game, if you will, to get people to bid higher? And it was really cool. In my most recent MC event, I got word from the board that that was the most money they'd ever made. And I was their, first MC. They had not had an MC before and decided, let's take the heavy lifting off the executive director. And that really lent itself to seeing the added value that an MC gives to the event and my style.
Wow, that's amazing. So I have a follow-up question to that because it sounds like you really do take into consideration the type of event that you're hosting and how your persona should be. For instance, if it's a little bit more of a chill, relaxed environment, then maybe you're kind of reeling in your fun personality that's very similar to mine. But then for other events where it's very high energy, so I want to ask, how do you use that skill set, like reading the room, like pacing your energy, improvisation, which I know that you are also a comedian as well, how that could translate into a retreat environment as a retreat host? How can that skill set really kind of gear more into that?
Yeah, I think the first thing is it's checking in with yourself before you even enter the space. So it's really getting centered in the self that you are. So I do it. Abraham Hicks, who's an intuitive, talks about, which is segment intention. And, before I even walk in, I dress the part and align what will make me feel ready to be ready for that space and that experience. And then I sit in the car, I take a big breath and I get into my body and I set an intention to really connect with my heart, my soul, my beingness, so that I can show up and not be doing so heavily, but being a presence that's magnetic and connected. And so the first step is, I would say, be rooted and grounded in the who that you are, because that is foundational to any event being successful. And yes, you definitely bring up a great point, which is every retreat has different participants, different vibes, different styles. And I've been to all kinds, from a goddess retreat, which was very active and spiritual, to a leadership retreat, which was very driven by vision. And both were very valuable, both taught me a lot about myself, and both were very different vibes in different places and spaces and people. And I take that into consideration. So after centering the self, it's a spectrum, right? We have energy, and energy is everywhere. And I am very empathic and intuitive. And so I think that's one of my superpowers, where the moment I walk into a room, like when I was in Paris and I was in charge of emceeing the event and I was the opening keynote, then I took on the MC for the 2-day intensive leadership experience. I could tell a lot of these women were sitting there so stiffly in their seats. I read the room and the nonverbal saw the nonverbal cues, right? That their posturing was telling me, ooh, I'm nervous, I'm here, I've never been to Paris, I'm possibly speaking, all the things. Ugh. I could just take that in. So I decided in that moment, they need loosened up and let's change the vibe. I made a download decision of, I'm not diving in yet. And ironically, my PowerPoint wasn't even working. So I just said, okay, let's put our hands together and make some rhythm. And then I just freestyled an improvised rap about being a magnetic leader and communicator, having them make sounds with their bodies, standing up and moving. They're smiling, they're laughing, they're high-fiving each other. And what I know in that moment is, I first read my own energy. I was very centered, ready, did the yoga, did the things. So I was ready to be ready and set the intention for safety and fun and flair. Saw that it was not happening. I was very aware that the mirror I was getting back was nervousness and like anxiety. And I'm like, this is not going to work. And I had a choice. Do I freak out? My slides are not working. No, that's going to amplify that energy. I need to uplift and be with that. And movement does it. Making sound does it in community. And then, do a sing song thing, right? Not everybody would do a freestyle rep. I understand that. That's using my gifts and talents and fun and flair in my training. What you can do though is, you have control over yourself. Center that first. And then the next piece is know the spectrum. The goal is you want to meet the other where they are. I worked for a bank. I'm a Walt Disney World theater person. If I walked into a bank with, hey, we're going to learn about communication strategy today. Woohoo! High fives everywhere. Let's have a zippity doo dah day. That would have flipped them out. So the 10 that I am, out of big heart, big love, I softened to a 7 and I was grounded in centered confidence, still energetic and controlled within love, not tension, because that's different, but softening. And so think of it as soft serve ice cream, right? You have options for ice cream. You can get the hard scoop with like Rocky Road and lots all the goods and lots of toppings, or you can do a smoother version of vanilla and let people decide what to put on top. And then when they give you something, it's a give and take, right? Like ping pong. You give, you receive. And if they start to laugh and lighten up, you might bump it up a little to a 7.5 with a fun story. Everybody loves a good story. That's safe for everybody. When you share stories, stories are a good thing for your tool belt when you go into retreats, is have with you thematic stories that are in alignment with the content of your messaging and share those. That will be a connector. It transports heads to hearts immediately, pierces the listening of your audience.
Oh, I love that, Tina. That's a good tip For people that are thinking about hosting a retreat, make sure to have some stories in your back pocket. Because as Tina said, sometimes you kind of have to figure out what your audience is looking to experience. And maybe they don't want you at a full 10. They want you more at a 6 because, like Tina said, you walk into a bank, you don't want people being like zippity doo dah day, right?
Right on. Well, yeah, and a lot of it is too, it's when you meet someone where they are, that's safety, isn't it? It's really it's really being safe. It's being safe with the moment as it occurs. And safety and having a safe container is really ultimately the foundation for everything. And then you get to pepper in the fun creativity. And owning your creativity is another big tip, I would say. If you are throwing a retreat, first of all, retreats are creative in and of themselves. They're events, they're super, super creative. You can't go into it and say, well, I'm not creative. Well, that's going to frame it very oddly, right? So whether you are framing a retreat as a leader and you want to do leadership or spiritual retreat, whatever it is on any of the spectrum, and for empowerment and beyond, you are creative. Get into your inner creator that you are. Are you into visual stuff? Are you into theatrics? Are you into music? Do you play an instrument? Do you sing? Tap into that beautiful element because all of us have those abilities to bring into retreat that's going to be the icing on the cake, that's going to land on those hearts of your participants to have it resonate because arts are how like and we all have wounds from our childhood where maybe our creativity was stifled, and so you could be part of that healing process to say, you know what, we're going to just doodle, and then we're going to share our doodles without judgment, and we're going to talk about it. And then the doodling links to um, being wild and bold with brainstorming as a leader. I'm just making this up, right? So you could add that playfulness element to it with purpose. You are
Yeah, I
creative.
love that. Love that, Tina. That's awesome. So, as we're talking about retreats, so obviously you haven't hosted a retreat yet. That's the
I'm
word
going
yet.
to in a year, baby.
Yes. So,
Woo!
since you are thinking about hosting one, let's just say you were asked to lead one in like the next 6 months. What strengths from your speaking and emceeing background would you lean into with helping host a retreat as a co leader or even a leader on your own?
Well, the very first one that bubbles up is teacher. I have a profound background for 30 plus years of education. I've taught speech, English, and theater to high school kiddos, facilitated theater camps for elementary, junior high, and high school. And then I got advanced degrees and taught collegiate students. And then I facilitated a wide range of team building workshops for nonprofits and for profit organizations and have coached a wide range of leaders in nonprofit and for profit worlds. And so the teaching piece, what I would get all jazzed about is the curriculum building of really creating 7 yummy days of adventure in self-discovery and group discovery that we don't have to. The beauty of retreats is you're not doing the heavy lifting on your own. And so there's beautiful power in group. And then the second piece after teaching and that guidance that comes from within, playfulness, right? You're going to go to this retreat and you're going to have fun and it's going to be Muppet purposeful fun. I'm going to embed in the one I'm planning on in a year is laughter, yoga, movement, breath, and art projects and freestyle movement and some yes and improv. Because if you don't yes and yourself, how are you going to yes and into the leadership, the communication that you do moving forward? And so playful creativity for sure would be a second one. And then the third one, beyond the cognitive foundational skills that I bring to the table, more than 30 years of research and communication, and the playfulness with my theater background and just the little 12-year-old I have inside, I would say spirituality, because I do feel like we're souls having a human experience. And so it's really all about an alignment with our breath, with being at the foundation in our bodies. Because what I have found is when I've gotten really, really nervous, which does happen before an improv show or before a big keynote or a workshop, and it goes fine, not magnetic and blow them out of the water, which I have those as well. The fine ones are fine. And what I've found every single time is I didn't align with my spirituality. I didn't get connected to source or self or God, whatever you want to call. And I feel like that I would gift that in community with circle time and debriefing, so bookend morning, set the intention, draw a card, really ground ourselves with love and grace, and then have a debrief at the end of the day. So it would be fluid adaptability with adventure, with playfulness in a cool space because we're going to do activities and such, but also grounded in learning and being there as a leader for the individual as well as the group.
Love that. Love that. So many great tips. So, I have a question about this because a lot of retreat leaders face challenges. And so, I want to ask you this question. What challenges do you imagine that you would face stepping into a retreat host role, and how might you overcome them?
Well, it's funny you say this. I had a friend who actually co-facilitated a retreat recently in California, just a week plus ago or so. And she shared with me that just last minute, the caterer canceled, said, sorry, we cannot do that. And this is for 20 people showing up, right? That's a substantial amount of people to feed for 7 days. Terrifying. And then on top of it, I think something fell through with the space they were supposed to stay. So but all of a sudden, they had to juggle figuring out new Airbnbs and they were not getting to all stay together. That's craziness from a coordination logistics standpoint, but then also the food. That's at a foundational Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Physiologically, we need space, shelter to stay in. If you show up and there's no space, and I went to a retreat as a participant where the transportation got like turned, the guy got fired as we were headed to the retreat. So he turned around, dropped us off at the airport and said, figure it out. And it was like, thank goodness I was in group that we could do it together. And we had the phone number to the retreat leader and she lovingly helped us. But that was wild and unplanned. So those things happen. And I think at the first moment, and I just was reading something in The Presence Process by Michael Brown. That's a beautiful book. You got to laugh about it. You got to know foundationally you're going to be taken care of, you are safe. And the more you restrict and resist and say, oh my gosh, it's not going to be like I anticipated. It's not perfect. I have to do more. I have to push, push, push. You're going to get a crazy result. And I have seen that firsthand. When you push to productivity and craziness instead of wait, breathe, take a beat, and then say, okay, that happened. Because the story we tell ourselves is people are going to hate me. They're never going to come to a retreat again. Da, 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 da. Like you're going to have this crazy, I think, Brene Brown crazy stories. And then you got to ground yourself and rise strong to the occasion and get through the emotions of this is really sucky. I could do hard things. And so I would say logistics could be the nightmare piece. And so have your plan B and C. And that's the same with presenting, right? My slides didn't work. Fortunately, I was prepared to email the slides and say, hey, I even said participants, if you want them, I'll just email it. We're just going to go with the flow. And magically they appeared later in the presentation. It was wild. It was kind of like the universe is like, haha, I'm going to make you do an improv because you need to do that to show yourself you can. And that's who you are. It was a gift. So, and it could be a gift. What if that caterer was meant to be canceled because it wasn't going to be great and you got something better, right? What if that space was not meant to be, so it's all in the framing. So if you can frame your mindset into not being completely attached to anything, yes, you got to have a plan. I mean, people don't just want to willy-nilly show up and be like, we're just going to figure it out as we go. And maybe there are retreats that do that, and that's part of the process. But in my world, I'm learning as I've gotten more into my beingness that it's having plans B and C and not being super attached to the outcome. So the more, and ask for help, right? Ask for help from people who are good at that. Like I have a cousin, he and his partner are going to go with me on this really awesome extravaganza national park trip. And that's where we're going to get ideas for a potential retreat. And he is awesome at coordination and figures out the logistics. That's his gift and strength, not so much mine. I'm an idea person. He follows through and gets it done. And so it's dancing with people, like you said earlier, you have an outstanding assistant who is just really gifted in the tech. So circle yourself with those people, ask for help. Bear in mind, stuff happens, just like in a wedding, weird stuff happens.
You are so right.
And it could be even better and be great fodder for wonderful, rich laughter of stories.
Yes. So my daughter is a flight attendant with Frontier, and when she was going through her very intensive training that was for 4 weeks, she said a core thing that she remembers and still takes with her is this saying of "be like a palm tree," because they bend, with the wind and with the change.
Mhm.
So be like a palm tree, just bend and be like, "It's okay." So that's so key when you're hosting a retreat or an event of some sort to be able to bend with whatever craziness is thrown your way.
Right. My mom even used to say, and still does, blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape. And I think that
Yes.
that's another mantra that can really align with what you just said. And adaptability, it's also being self-aware of what is your tolerance for ambiguity. Because I think there's a spectrum, in the psychology scale of can you handle uncertainty? Like know yourself pretty darn well, right? And some people, like
Mhm.
when I was teaching as a professor at Creighton, my students, when I would change the course syllabus, some embraced it, others freaked out, like, I wasn't prepared for that. And so it's being that self-aware too of how can I work on a thing? Like I'm working on my level of tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty. And it's actually very freeing.
Yeah, it really is. It definitely is. Once you're able to really understand that you can bend and flow with things that kind of come at you, it's a freeing thing. I call it emotional intelligence.
Yes. And then when you get that grounded emotional intelligence, then you get the communication intelligence where you can speak up, speak out from a grounded space for your needs, your wants, and for others.
Yes.
It's
Okay,
about
so
presence, being
I
present,
love it.
like
I
my coffee
love
mug.
Love it. Okay, so I want to dive into your past of hosting and emceeing and being a keynote speaker at different events. Can you share with us a memorable moment from either your speaking or emceeing career? Perhaps one that went a little bit differently than expected, since we're kind of talking about bending with the breeze and with what
Mhm.
comes thrown at you, or even talk about one that totally surprised you.
Let me talk about the first because I think it's always great as a growth experience to go, wow, that did not work, and here's why. And it's good old Drew Tarvin who kind of helped me with this, who's also a National Speakers Association buddy of mine and a humor engineer improviser as well. We talk about the idea of safety. That was a big thing. So I was a keynote speaker for Nebraska, the state parks and recreation people. And this was over a year ago. And they wanted me to do improv. Like, how can you, as a parks and rec, city official, whatever your role be for the state or a city, be truly all about more yes anding. And I found in terms of yes anding, let's do something completely new and different in how I opened my keynote, which was get an audience suggestion from them and then create a scene or story or whatever and then dive in. And it went okay-ish. And then I got better and more. The reason why I think it only went ish is because I requested too soon from the audience before I built a foundation of trust. Audience participation in anything, they need to, from a marketing standpoint, you've heard know, like, and trust. They didn't know me. Now, the person who hired me did. She had seen me and loved months prior. I had facilitated a citywide workshop in improv. And so she trusted me. She loved me. She was the only one in the audience I knew. Everyone else were strangers from all over the state of Nebraska. And so what I was requesting from them, and this was an aha moment for me, was, oh, too soon. This is not an improv show. This is a more formal keynote for hundreds of people. Coming later in it, now, what was really cool in that very same keynote, and I did a fine with the story, whatever, is by point number 5, I told funny stories, gave some tips. By the last point, I asked for 5 participants and immediately they came up. And they did an activity together where they had to, within 2 minutes, create a game that I'd given many props, and they created this hilarious game that used a bat, a football, whatever. I can't remember all the items, but that's just an example of the growth of your trust. Safety, safety, safety first, then the fun can happen. Fun first is great for some, not all. And I'm one of those that leans in and dives into the Indian Ocean without a life jacket. That really did happen. And it was wild. Very few people do that. Very few people do that. So you want to give them foundational knowingness of you as that MC, as that facilitator for a retreat, as the keynote speaker. Then they're going to like you potentially, not all, but potentially, and then they'll trust you. Then you can ask for audience participation and volunteerism.
Wow, that's amazing. So, as we're talking about this, obviously there was a little bit of a learning experience behind that. So, how did you apply that learning experience? And how would someone that maybe has been in your position as a keynote speaker, how would they apply that to retreat hosting?
I would say it's so, so valuable. And I've attended multiple retreats that you have a pre-session with your participants. You give a month prior, you say, let's meet. I want to meet you. You maybe give some pre-work. You give a lovely travel list. This is all things like, I want to go and know that I have my safety of things. Like if I'm going to be traveling, I want to stay hydrated. And if you're not providing water for me, only a refill station, I need to know that I have a water bottle. That's just helpful information. Also, from a knowing standpoint, it's great to kind of get a touch point and touch base. I don't have to, but this is great for a lot of people to meet the other participants ahead of time, along with the facilitator, and to kind of get a vibe for their way of the way they do things, the way this might look like and be. And then if there's a foundation like setting an intention, I think is very grounding from a standpoint of more times than not, retreat, if you look at that word, we want to be treated again and again and again and again. It's, re is a past, prefix, treat. Everybody loves to treat, whatever that means, right? We want to be in a space of generosity with a facilitator, and they give a nice little goodie bag. They give us their time, they give us their tenderness, they give us their gentle kindness, they give us safety, they give us all these things, right? And the more that you have kind of an awareness of the scaffolding, I'm going to use an educational term, it's a framework, the better it's going to go. And also having a lovely structure that has some adaptability. I really believe you want at least a teaching thing every day if you're doing a retreat, unless it's all adventure and experiential, but be upfront about that. Because I've also gone to retreats where the advertising was not matching what I got out of it. So there's that faux pas. And then also have the bookend, as I noted. Start out in the morning with circle time, where everybody speaks. Maybe you draw a card or have a quote or a thought, maybe kind of a devotional to be grounded, like a practice in community, and then do so at the end of the day. And then have a basic schedule. And the best facilitator that I experienced a silent retreat with, she had that safety piece right away, met with us each individually, then in group, and then individually again, and then had on the board, this is the plan, and then was very clear, I felt we need to go here more and longer. So we're going to alternate, so communicate, don't assume. And communicate changes because, they're going to happen potentially because you don't know what you don't know about what your participants are working through, especially if it's a healing retreat and they're dealing with trauma. You don't want to push. You want it to be very safe and spacious, particularly in grief. Grief knows no time.
Wow, that's so good. Oh my gosh. So I have one last question before we close out. If someone was listening to this, which there is going to be someone listening to this that wants to,
Hooray!
yes, but But if someone that's listening to this wants to step into hosting retreats, but they come from a background like you, where they're speaking, they're, an event MC, or they're facilitating events, what would you encourage them to start doing right now? Because you're already in that mindset where you want to host your own retreat. So you're already in that space. Do you have some advice for anyone that's thinking about hosting their own retreat or event in the future?
I absolutely love this question, Amanda, because you inspired me in our conversation to first of all, you got to decide. You can do nothing, make any form of progress without the decision. It's sort of like my son met with a golf pro coach this past weekend, and the golf coach said something profound that I think can be in alignment with business and what we're talking about here with hosting retreat. He said, you have talent, young man. You can make it as a pro golfer. That's my son's goal. Now you need to be motivated to take it to the next level. And that is, you have to decide to eat better. You have to decide to weight train. You have to decide to know your equipment inside and out and know it better. And you're a feeling golfer and you need to be more analytical and balance those out. So what does this mean in terms of retreats? Well, first of all, you got to make the decision. You got to decide. I've been waffling for like a long time, and the universe keeps giving me gifts. Different people. It's like, I really see you hosting retreats. It's like the universe telling me, like, hello, talking to you through different voices. And then you and I had a conversation. It's like, oh, this is what I do. And by the way, I'm doing a podcast. Oh, by the way, would you be interested in talking about it? I'm like, well, that's interesting. So then I started sitting with it, right? Like I had to decide, because what was holding me back was, let's be honest, the fear. I've never done it before. Of course, you have to do everything a first time. Did y'all go to kindergarten? Yes, you did. Was it terrifying? Maybe. Did you get through it? Yes, you did. And then day two was a little bit better after you met Mrs. Rupert, who was phenomenal with the alphabet people. And it got better and easier. You had to do that first time first. And so decide. Once you decide, you commit. I told you, and you're going to hold me accountable. I'd appreciate this. October of 2026, I want to do a retreat. Okay. So
I
you
got
hold
you, girl.
yourself to the commitment and have some people hold you dang accountable. Okay. I'm going on a trip that I'm like, okay, I'm going to take pictures and video and brainstorm with my cousin and say, this is my idea. I would love to have you on board. What do you think? Why not? We come back to Zion National Park and do an adventure trip. And it's this really deep dive, 7 days to your greatness with your voice to feel fully expressed. And we do mindset, message, mechanics, playfully, spiritually, and adventurously. Oh, wow, this is just coming out of me. Thank you.
I love it. Love it.
And so you got to blend the nerve sided, right? The nervousness, which is heightened fear. And that was what it was like when I published my book. I was like, nerve sided, yay, all the things. Embrace it, lean into it, and then dive into the water. Don't just
Mm.
tip your little toe, go all in. So then once you decide, you commit, you succeed. I've been on partnerships with multiple people where I did all the footwork and it wasn't in alignment, and none of these retreats have ever happened. I didn't find the right partner. It wasn't the right time. I meant to do this on my own in my own way and circle myself with the right people and know that mistakes are going to happen. Give myself grace, let go of perfectionism and the push. And give yourself spaciousness. I'm declaring a year. A year is beautiful. Pick the date now and set timeline of, like, it's sort of like a CEO. If you are a CEO for your business, how are you going to show up? And I don't like to be rushed. When there's a reason why they open the house for shows a half an hour ahead of time. It's giving guests the opportunity to look at the program, to sit in their seat, find their seat, get their beverage if they want, see the ambiance, have the chit chat, get excited. Then they boom, curtain opens. Do the same for yourself. And that's why it's like, if you said 6 months from now, I'm like, that's too fast. Because you got to make a marketing plan. You want to get butts and seats. And that's the thing that's got me trippy, is be aware of what your fears are. For me, the fear is I've never done it. Number two is, will people like this and like me and show up? And will I make any money? Like, those are my big fears, the trifecta. You never done it. Will people like it and show up? And I don't want to be like sunk. I mean, one facilitator told me straight up that they lost money on it. Now, it was a fabulous retreat, but they didn't figure out the numbers right. So
Mm-hmm.
I was grateful as a participant, like, woohoo, I got a lot of goodies. Unfortunate for the person who facilitated it, right? So those are the things, like give yourself space. But first of all, you got to just be ready to be ready. Know where your fears lie, deal with it, circle yourself with awesome people. And I know this is what you do, Amanda. Like, this is your wheelhouse, is the stuff I hate doing, which is the coordination. Like, I'm the idea person of, ooh, let me create the awesome lessons. And I want to go the place. Now we have to figure out the group, like the travel agent stuff. I have a travel agent for a reason. I don't even like booking my own flights. I pay for that.
I totally get that, Tina. And that's why, like you had said earlier on in this podcast, that you stay in your space. You are the more creative type, and you utilize people like your assistant or a travel agent to handle those things that they're more specialized and that's their niche. So you can stay fully focused and devote all of your energy to being your MC self and the keynote speaker and soon a retreat leader, which is so exciting. So Tina, before we completely close out, where can people find you on socials?
Yeah, so Tina B here, BE. And what's really cool is I have a website. That's my hub. Currently, it's tinabakehouse.com. That's TINA, B as in boy, AKEHOUSE.com. Soon to be TinaB.com. So that's going to be a birthday celebration, November 2025. Tina, TINABE.com. And that's my hub of all things yummy for upcoming. I do monthly free events. The first one was just a week ago, Tuesday. This next one is Speak from the Center, and it's October the 20th, Monday at 11:30 Central. And it's free. I love sharing information. So my tinabakehouse.com, soon to be tinab.com, is a great space. I'm on LinkedIn, Tina B, B-E, Bakehouse. I'm also on Facebook, and I have a YouTube channel, Magnetic Speaking with Tina B. And that's where I put little yummy nuggets. I'm working on getting more freestyle improv out there, where I have fun little videos that are just, sharing things about voice. It's a choice, rap little nuggets. So LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, website. Would love to connect and have a conversation and support you.
Well, Tina, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your wisdom, your experiences, and your perspective. It is so inspiring to hear how skills that you've honed in on as a keynote speaker and an MC, they can cross over beautifully into the retreat world. So for our listeners, I hope today's episode helps you see that no matter where your background lies, whether it's in speaking, coaching, or even leading events, you already have the tools that can translate into creating transformational retreat experiences. If you love today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to Heat Up Your Retreats and share this episode with someone who's dreaming about hosting their own retreat. Until next time, keep dreaming big and creating spaces for transformation. Bye, friends.
Thank you for tuning in to Heat Up Your Retreats. I hope today's episode sparked fresh inspiration and reminded you that your retreat vision is meant to be realized. Are you ready to take the next step? Please send me an email at amanda@acrossthehorizontravel.com with the subject line of strategy session, and let's start building a transformational retreat that aligns with your mission. Be sure to follow, share, and leave a review so more leaders like you can heat things up too. Until next time, keep dreaming big, keep planning bold, and keep heating up your retreats.